That was nasty.
That's a chassis, is that?
Guys, the Kraton
Oh god.
is broken and properly broken. So it looks like the diff housing has broken. The screws are stripped straight out the diff housing and the chassis is bent.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Alright guys, we made it back to the bench and she's all repaired again, guys. That was a crazy crash, guys. It was probably one of the worst crashes I've ever had. Luckily it was quite straightforward to repair. It did take me a little time. I was a bit surprised as well, the things that I did break. So I'll quickly go over what I did break, guys. Just looking at the body here, we actually broke my perspex sheet that I had in place of this plastic piece here, and it just broke straight there. I mean, it was 5mm thick. I didn't expect it to break, but it did break, so I have replaced it. And now what I've done, guys, is I've just replaced it with a thinner piece of flexible plastic. So I'm hoping that this thinner piece will just allow it to flex and not break. And it's just attached just like it was before, guys, with the 3 bolts going straight through, and it should hopefully be all right, guys. So that's the body. With regards to the car, guys, as I said, everything is back as it was. First thing I'd had to do, guys, chassis is the Fireteam chassis I had on there. It is an RTO stamped aluminum chassis. We did actually bend just down here. Let's see if I can show you. It's nice and straight. Whether this area has now been compromised or not, we'll have to see. This is the first time I've ever bent a chassis like that. It did bend back relatively straight. Everything has gone back in to its original place. I didn't have any difficulty. Now back straight again. You can see everything else is hooked up. So what I've actually broke, I'll quickly show you. So the first thing I noticed was I broke my wheelie bar. You can see it snaps clean off. And then we also broke the wing mount or brace, which wasn't a big deal. I do have some spare of these. If you own a Kraton, then you know that these things do break quite often and quite regularly. And I did have the wing pull off the top as well. Luckily all these parts I do have in stock. Another thing I did break, guys, this is the diff housing, and what happened is the screws just stripped straight out, and obviously this diff housing now, or diff case, can't be utilized anymore. As I said, I did have a spare one of them as well, so that was all good. And lastly, we bent the rear hinge pins. Again, I had some spares of them as well, so I have replaced them as well. So you can see there, that one's bent as well. Luckily I didn't break any hinge pins, so I used the existing hinge pins and put everything back on it. What else did we break? At the front here, we did actually break these lights. We broke these lights quite a while back. I just didn't have the time to fix them, so now I have repaired them, guys, and all I've done is put some nuts and bolts straight through, and it's holding these lights on quite well. And I do like to have my rigs with the lights on there. Another thing I did prior to today's bash is I had to add an extra foam piece at the top here just to make this whole thing a bit thicker. It was just not sitting right with the body, so I've had to raise that up, but that seemed to be all good and it's still intact, just on with a few zip ties. And one other thing that I did change, guys, is I was finding it quite difficult. The steering was getting quite poor. I did originally have the 25 kg eBay special servo in here, and had that in for quite a while, and it does work, but it's quite slow, so I did upgrade that to a 35 kg servo now, again an eBay special. This servo is super quick. I really enjoy it. I mean, it is still cheap, still a cheap servo, and it does the job really well. So I'm really happy with the steering. Everything still seems to be intact and quite solid as well, guys, so I'm really happy about that. I mean, it took a bit of a beating. Even the tower, that thing is still intact, and that's taken some crazy amount of hits, guys. So anyway, that's the car. As I said, we've repaired it all. Luckily I had all these parts. I can't wait to get this thing out again. It was super fun, and Vin You're an absolute legend. So another thing I have done as well, guys, is I've upped the punch on this now. So we're at full maximum punch at punch 9. Pinion is still a 15 tooth pinion in here. I could go up to a 16. I think that will probably be the limit for this system. So anyway, guys, that's the car. Everything's back working again, and she lives to fight another day.